Hey guys, it's me again, the Obsidian Pixie, and today I'm here to talk to you about my TBR for MonsterAthon. MonsterAthon is the month-long readathon I'll be doing through the month of September, hosted by, if I remember correctly, Chapter Kate. Let's get started. First prompt for MonsterAthon, Classic Creepers. Read a book with a classic horror monster. Classic horror monsters include things like vampires, werewolves, mummies, things you'd see in the classic horror movies, Frankenstein, things like that. I am reading New Moon. Different twist on the Twilight series, or a different twist on vampires and werewolves, second book in the Twilight series. I have read the whole series before several times. Currently reading Twilight as part of my August readathon, so I'll be reading the second book as part of my September one. What big eyes you have. Read a book over 400 pages. I am reading Shadow Moon by George Lucas and Chris Claremont. Shadow Moon is kind of a continuation of the story from the movie Willow. Shadow Moon has, let me just double check here, 452 pages, so definitely qualifies. It's a really good story. It's the first in a trilogy. I've read it before. Probably one of my favorite fantasy series, to be honest. Chimera, a book that fits multiple genres. I am reading Guinevere by Mercedes Lackey. It's fantasy, it's retelling, it's kind of sort of historical, kind of sort of romance, just a whole bunch of different things. I have read it once before, but it was a long time ago. I don't really remember it, so I'm looking forward to reading it again. Next, The Real Monsters. Read a book featuring monstrous humans. I'm reading A Time to Kill by John Grisham. Probably the favorite of the Grisham novels that I've read. It is very intense, though. Was also made into a movie. This book has some very bad men that capture and do really nasty, horrible things to a poor little girl, and then it's kind of about the ramifications of that and what happens after. So, book featuring monstrous humans definitely fits. Unsightly, a comic, manga, or graphic novel featuring a monster. I am reading Jim Henson's The Storyteller, Dragons. The Storyteller was a really awesome TV show from the 80s and 90s where they would take old folktales and kind of tell them on screen. Excuse me. If you're at all familiar with Jim Henson, you can imagine the puppetry and things that went into that. So they've recently done a couple of graphic novels kind of based on those. Just telling new stories, but that kind of format. This is one of them, and all the stories in this feature dragons. So this is what I'm going to be reading for that prompt. Angry Mob, a book recommended by more than one person. I am reading, oh there it is, this book, The 12 Kings and Sherakai, was recommended to me by several people on one of my bookie-themed Discords. I don't really know anything about it, but a lot of people raved about it, so I'm going to read it next. Sacrifice, a book you've seen in an Unhaul video. I am going to be reading Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, which I saw in my friend Septimus Snape's Unhaul video. I have read this before, just once, briefly, and again, it was quite a while ago. I don't really remember too much about it, other than that it was very much better than the movie. So again, looking forward to kind of rereading and experiencing this. Now next there is some group challenges. MonsterAthon has 3 teams, the Haunts, the Beasts, and the Conspiracies. I am a member of Team Haunts, but I will be doing all 3 all 3 group challenges. For Haunts, read a book featuring a monster that is dead or undead. The Graveyard book, the whole book is set in a graveyard, obviously, given the title. Again, I have read it before, but it was a while ago. I know that there are numerous ghosts and a vampire in this book, all creatures that are dead or undead. For Beasts, book featuring a monster with plant or animal traits. I'm reading Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets by J.K. Rowling. This is the book that deals with mandrakes, so definitely a monster with plant traits. And the last one, Conspiracies, book featuring an alien, robot, or sci-fi based creature. I'm reading Crystalline by Anne McCaffrey, the last book in the Crystal Singer trilogy. This book has several things that I think would classify as alien, robot, and sci-fi based creatures. For one, there is a brain and brawn ship. Anyone familiar with some of Anne McCaffrey's books knows she wrote a book called The Ship That Sings, which was about a brain and brawn ship. Brain and brawn ships are specifically, it's a large spaceship where a person has kind of given up their body to become the ship. So the ship is run by like a human brain kind of, and then they also have a brawn partner, which would be like the ship's pilot. And so that's kind of a robotic thing, but there's also something that they wind up calling junk in this book, which is like a sentient, semi-fluid, crystalline substance. So definitely alien, kind of sci-fi kind of thing. There was also a group book. Just a second, I dropped it on the floor. And this is a book of short stories, Unnatural Creatures. They were not written by Neil Gaiman. They were curated by him. All of the stories in the book were selected by him. And each team has a specific short story from the book. For the Haunts, the story is Come Lady Death by Peter S. Beagle, the same guy that wrote The Last Unicorn. For Beasts, the story is The Griffin and the Minor Canon by Frank R. Stockton. And for Conspiracies, I have no idea how to pronounce the title because it is just kind of a visual representation of like a sound wave. So that is the book for Conspiracies. I do plan on reading all 3 of those short stories as well as the rest of the stories in the book as part of my daily pages read. So that's my TBR for next month. I will put links to the MonsterAthon video, and yeah, I am looking for readathons to do in October still. If I have a couple I'm kind of waiting for more information about, but if you have any suggestions, please feel free to comment in the comments. And yeah, hope to see you next time. Next week will probably be my Newts wrap-up video, so hope to see you then. Thanks. Bye.